Before we get into the review, I know I said last week this week is going to be the first modern game that we're going to review, but reviewing modern games is a little bit harder than I had originally anticipated, just because they take longer to beat usually. So, for the purposes of this week, we'll review a game that I am deeply and intimately familiar with. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep was originally released on the PSP, a game system that I didn't get until 2015. I actually think it was 2016, which was 6 years after the initial launch of Kingdom Hearts back in January of 2010. Great year. But for me, I didn't get it until 2015 or 16, when for my birthday, I had my mom take me to this vintage game store called Bogbean, and I was able to go in, and they had a little countertop area where a glass display case where they had a ton of handheld systems, DS's, GBA's, Vitas, PSPs. My mom asked me, what do I want? I said a PSP. It was $70. It was a PSP 3000, which that was kind of a stupid choice in retrospect because they also had a PS Vita 2000 model there right next to the PSP. But the PS Vita 2000 was only $110 there. And personally, nowadays, I play all of my PSP games on my PS Vita. I do it through Adrenaline. I got my copy of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep actually a few weeks prior, because one of my good friends at the time, Zach, for my birthday present, he owned a PSP back in the day, and he gave me a bunch of games, one of them being Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And in the lead up to my birthday, I was so excited, I slept with the game in my bed, under my pillow, holding it, whatever. It was in my bed with me as I slept for the few weeks leading into my birthday. I was that excited. Something I also forgot to get with the PSP was a memory card. So it wasn't exactly a great time for me, because the first time I started playing the game, I didn't install the data, I didn't select a save file, I just started playing the game. And right about the time I got to the Sleeping Beauty world with Ventus, I sort of let the PSP die, and I had to start all over again. At that point, I lost a ton of motivation, and I just waited the day or two for my PSP Memory Stick Duo to finally show up. But after that, I was finally able to jump in and fully be able to save my game and actually make some pretty long and deep progress and actually beat the game. And when it comes to the actual sort of structure of the game itself, it's, for what it's worth, your pretty standard Kingdom Hearts game with the charge system, which basically allows you to push in the right and left bumper to go into this sort of focus auto detect mode, where if you're facing an enemy, it could highlight it a bunch of times and you can do sort of like a special attack, which was incredibly cool, which a function that would eventually come to later Kingdom Hearts games, but which got its start with Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Another relatively unique factor when it comes to the structure of the game is that its story is broken up amongst its 3 main characters. Each character has their own campaign and storyline that sort of all culminates into a complete vision of what is happening in the story. Typically, this is the part where I give you a quick synopsis of the story, but I won't be doing that for this for a few different reasons. One, the story is really complicated and is predicated on the fact that you're familiar with multiple other aspects of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. While this isn't a prequel to the entire franchise, it is a prequel in the sense that it is sort of one of the more of a catalyst point for some of the main characters that you would later see in the Kingdom Hearts franchise, primarily Ventus. And as well, I try to keep these videos around 10 to 15 minutes as sort of a quick review rather than an extensive review of the story, which I do have my thoughts on, but going through the entire story point by point isn't very necessary to convey that. To give you, though, a quick summary, essentially, Terra is ordered to defeat the Unverse and find Master Xehanort, and he hopes to control his darkness and eventually become a master. Aqua is secretly tasked to essentially spy on him and make sure he's okay. She's also tasked to bring home the youngest of the three, Ventus. Ventus himself decided to go and hunt down this mysterious masked boy named Vanitas, which is very different from his current name. They are in fact different people, and essentially also leaves to chase after Terra. Sometimes their stories intertwine and they show up in each other's storylines and overlap in that way, which is very cool when it happens. Mickey Mouse is also here, cause why wouldn't he be? Each character culminates in their own final boss fight, which is, to me, one of the coolest parts of the game. There are 12 main worlds in the game: Castle of Dreams, which is based on Cinderella, Dwarf and Woodlands, based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Enchanted Dominion, which is Sleeping Beauty, Deep Space, which is Lilo and Stitch, Radiant Garden, also known as Hollow Bastion, Olympus Coliseum, which is Hercules, Mirage Arena, a unique combat world, which I believe functioned for the online, which currently no longer functions, Disney Town, which is Winnie the Pooh, Mysterious Tower, Neverland, which is Peter Pan, and lastly, the Keyblade Graveyard. Which, out of these worlds, my personal favorite one was Deep Space, the Lilo and Stitch world. Personally, that was probably my favorite one. It could have something to do with that Lilo and Stitch, out of all of these movies, was my favorite, but to me, it was just the funnest one. And I thought the Keyblade from this world was the coolest one, and I used it way longer than I probably should have, for considering how each world gives you a new Keyblade that's some ways stronger and better than the one you got from the previous world, and could be better at some things depending on what you like doing more, whether that's like your magic sort of abilities or just straight-faced combat. Unlike other Kingdom Hearts games, you're by yourself for most of it. You don't have a party of other people running around with you. So you don't have Donald or Goofy healing you or defending you from other enemies. For that reason, a lot of the combat encounters are structured in such a way where they're actually a lot more simple, whether that's due to the nature of being on the PSP, requiring less intense combat situations overall. Could be a lack of processing power, so the PSP can't simply render so many enemies, or could just be how they decided to curve the game's power balance system around being an individual rather than having a team of people supporting you. So at the base normal difficulty setting, which is what I originally played the game at, it was a little easy. I would recommend you, if you're more seasoned and a more dedicated player of these kinds of games, I would highly recommend you raising above the base difficulty level, which you can pretty much do at any time, like in any other Kingdom Hearts game, if you wanted something to actually challenge you. When it comes to combat, it generally kind of feels like a button masher. Not in the way that it is necessarily bad, but you are pressing the X button a lot and swinging your Keyblade and doing basic stuff a lot of the times, especially if you're doing a lot of backtracking. There is, though, some depth to it. With the D-Link system, forging connections with other characters will allow you to use their abilities, allowing you access to more fun and interesting ways to engage in the combat system, which is pretty cool. You can dodge, you can study and change your attack pattern fairly well. It's pretty cool. But especially if you're, like I said, playing on the lower difficulties, there really isn't a necessity to engage with those systems. I barely did it when playing on the normal difficulty setting. I highly encourage you to play on Proud at the very least, if you actually want a good reason to engage with the more deeper sides of the combat system. It wouldn't be a Kingdom Hearts game without minigames, and fortunately, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is one of the few exceptions when it comes to Kingdom Hearts minigames. I generally tend to really hate them, especially the ones in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. But with Birth by Sleep, it sort of shucks that trend and intertwines the minigames very well into the main story, and overall played very well. I even liked Rumble Racing, which a lot of people tend to critique for its less than stellar controls, sometimes being quite floaty, but I got used to it and really enjoyed it. I wish I had the game back in the day to engage with the Mirage Arena. It seemed like a really cool online multiplayer thing. From what it looks like, you're able to engage in sort of competition things. You can play mini games against each other. You can even do fights in special arenas. You can fight multiple waves of enemies and compete to whoever gets more points, essentially. It was really, really cool. But people talked about how there were some frame rate issues, which I would anticipate. It is a PSP. Overall, though, it was a really cool feature that is unfortunately no longer functional today. If you wanted to play the game for yourself, you can do it in a ton of different ways these days. You can download an emulator and play it on any kind of mobile device you would want. Or you can get a PS4, PS5, Xbox, a PC, any kind of PlayStation, and download one of the many different HD collections they have for this game. Whether that's the Final Mix editions, the 2.5 HD remix, or whatever. It is one of the best Kingdom Hearts games and has been remade so many times so well. It's probably one of the easiest games I can recommend to people. If you're a fan of any of the IPs in the games, or even as simply a fan of action RPGs, I would highly recommend anybody who is interested in these kinds of games to check it out. It is one of my favorite games from my childhood, and I hope my video in some way helped you actually try a new game. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you wanted to check out and buy this game yourself, I have affiliate links down below. If you wanted to give that a click, it would go a long way in helping out the channel. I would love to hear what you guys thought though. Did you like this game? Did you play it yourself? Or are you picking it up for the first time? All that more down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the social media coverage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.